Hello, lovely humans. Welcome back to Chronically Joyful. Today, we are going to read my MRI results live. I already read them and I took notes actually so that I can interpret them for all of you lovely humans watching this with me right now. Based on my personal experience, large disclaimer right from the get-go, I am not a doctor. I am not a neurologist. I'm not paid to actually interpret these scans. I've just been getting many MRIs over the last 11 and a half years, so I know what all of the terminology actually translates to. So bear with me, and hopefully this helps you in some of the weird lingo, because I literally am going to read this verbatim and then refer back to my notes just to be like, and this is what this actually means. But first, thank you for joining me at my little craft table. That is a mess. I'm in the middle of painting for a project, and it's an embarrassing amount of paint bottles on this table right now. But this day has been absolutely bananas. I will be showing Puddles Cam at the end of this just because my sweet little baby got spayed today. And everyone has very conflicting opinions on whether or not that's ethical, but I wasn't breeding her, and thank God I chose to do this. I dropped her off this morning at like 7:30 after waking up at 5:30 this morning to give her, they prescribed her gabapentin and prednisone to be taken together. Gabapentin is a drug that folks have tried prescribing me as a human being for my pain for multiple sclerosis. For dogs, gabapentin and prednisone together combined works more so as like a sedative anti-anxiety combination, which I find absolutely fascinating as someone that's like, I'm familiar with gabapentin. I've never taken it, but Puddles certainly has, and I learned that she will take pills pretty easily as long as it's wrapped in cheese. So good job, cheese. But she got spayed today, and I received one of the most frightening text messages. Text messages. They didn't even call me. Of my life, telling me, let me get the actual name while we're here just so that I don't botch this. But they texted me and they said the procedure went well and everything's fine, except they found pyometra, which I'm probably pronouncing very incorrectly, but if you're not familiar with what that is, basically she had a cyst on her ovaries that they explained it to me as in it goes in 3 stages. Number 1, it just kind of develops. Stage 2, it fills with water. Stage 3, it fills with pus. And at that stage, it is very critical to do an emergency spay immediately because it could be fatal. She was in stage 3. They basically told me if she didn't come in this week that she probably wouldn't have made it. So, as a dog mom that loves and cherishes this poor coned creature before me, spay your animals or at least get them checked if you're going to breed them. That was the most terrifying thing I've experienced in a really long time. And as somebody with a chronic illness, I mean it. So it has been a wild day, an absolutely crazy day. I am delirious from lack of sleep. Work blew up as soon as I got there. It was like, hey, we have 30 escalations and we need you to jump on this. And I was like, okay, I need more coffee first. And I had a random thought. I did a workout at home because I'm very diligently hanging out with her while she's under the weather and all coney and sad. And she is so cracked out right now just because she's on so many meds after anesthesia that like she's a shell of her former doggy self. But I did a little workout at home and I just had this thought hit me where I was like, I feel like I have my MRI results right now. And I opened my email and I did. It was magical. Also, shout out to my friend Liz, who I had lunch with today at work, who was like, yeah, like our hospital network is really fast. You'll probably get it within 1 to 2 days. You were correct. I love your face. Thank you. But yeah, let's dive into these MRI results and I can share my news live with all of you here on this. I will be posting this on Thursday. I'm trying to figure out the cadence here. I was doing Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, but it felt like too much right now. Definitely Sundays, and I think Thursdays. That feels right, but let's get into it. To bring positive energy to this moment, I call in all of the good things for both me and my lovely, 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 lovely viewers. Okay. I also have a little amethyst with me. I'm wearing amethyst. I am energetically zen. So let's dive in. All right, I've got my results actually on my computer in front of me and then my notes here too. So let's jump into it. And this, by the way, is a comparison to my last MRI, which was October 16th, 2024. I looked at my neurologist at my appointment a couple months ago and I was like, I started a new med January of 2025, and I don't think we ever ran an MRI to see how things were going. He was like, that's impossible. We always do that. And then lo and behold, I was correct. So in comparison to my head MRI, October 16th, 2024, here we go. And forgive some of my pronunciations because I literally am going to read this verbatim. Multifocal periventricular, subcortical, and deep hemisphere flare and T2 hyperintensities are present. There is focal involvement of the pontine midbrain junction to the right. Basically, all that translates to is I have a demyelinating disease and I have autoimmune indications. That is specific to me, how I've interpreted this. That can mean other things, but I don't have other things like small vessel disease or anything along those lines. So basically, all of that to say, I have demyelination and an autoimmune disease. Who knew? There is involvement of the callosocceptal interface. Periventricular lesions show the typical elliptical radiating configuration of Dawson's fingers. Dawson's fingers are a very specific marker for multiple sclerosis. Specifically, it is like the number one indicator in a brain MRI that actually says this patient has MS and not something else. Another fancy way to think of this is white matter. I don't know where Dawson's fingers came from, but I'm always just like, I don't want to wait from Dawson's Creek. I'm just like, for my Dawson's fingers. You have to have fun with it. Otherwise, it's really depressing. I've also seen Dawson's fingers referred to before as a Venus necklace, which I find very appropriate for myself. I'm real into the solar system, guys. The size, shape, and configuration of ventricles and sulci suggests mild cortical and deep hemisphere volume loss for patient of this age. That all to say that I show brain tissue loss or brain atrophy, depending on how you want to interpret that. And it is fairly concerning for someone my age. Hi. This normally is something indicated in patients for aging. Like if I was in my mid 60s, early 70s, it'd be like, okay, this is normal, no concerns. This is a normal thing. As people age, their brain kind of starts atrophying. I am 31 years old and I have had this in my MRI results since I turned 20. So I can see where the concern comes in there. I unfortunately have also been told that this is a pretty glaring indicator that I am high risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Not dementia. I don't think I've ever heard that one before, but I have been told I am a high risk subject to develop Alzheimer's disease. Hence the crazy journey of becoming a sports nutritionist and being like, what is a brain healthy diet? And then realizing it's basically the Mediterranean diet, but on steroids. So I now live my life. I love the Mediterranean diet. Like my dinner tonight is going to be salmon over couscous with some steamed broccoli that I made yesterday. And I'm so excited for it. Most people would be like, is there a sauce with that? I'm like, nah, it's fine. But it's basically that. So it's just, I'm conscientious of this and I try to make healthy decisions. But here I am as the weather warms up and I need to stop going out with my girlfriends and having bar beverages. Putting it out there right now. Okay, let's get back to it. There is no mass effect, or midline shift. There is no acute intracranial hemorrhage or abnormal extraaxial fluid collections. There is no diffusion restriction. There are normal T2 flow voids in the larger intracranial vessels. All of that to say, I don't have brain swelling, hemorrhages, or tumors. Yay! I feel like I should start a different channel where I just read really scientific terms in like an ASMR kind of voice, like a intracranial vessels. Listen, it's been a really long day. Okay. There is no abnormal brain parenchymal or leptomeningeal enhancement. Cortical and deep hemisphere veins and the dural sinuses enhance normally with no evidence of thrombosis or occlusion. This is my favorite line in here. I'm always like, yay! The orbits are grossly unremarkable. If I ever wanted to be grossly unremarkable in my life, this is the occasion. Thank you. There is mucosal thickening in the right maxillary sinus. Otherwise, the paranasal sinuses and mastoid air cells are clear. The bone marrow signal pattern is normal. All of that to say that like sinusitis runs in my family. I have some sinus indication on the right side, but other than that, normal. So to close this out, I did skip this part and saved it for the end, but I'm going to try not to get emotional because I did break down on my bed earlier when I read this. But in comparison to October 16th, 2024 to today, March 24th, 2026, no new lesions are apparent. There are no enhancing plaques to suggest active demyelination. Findings are consistent with multiple sclerosis with no significant change from the prior examination. No evidence of active demyelination. And I'm not somebody that blatantly gets emotional over things very easily, but to not have an MRI for over a year and have such a bad 2024 experience, it was so bad. Every MRI I had was so bad. And to read all of that jargon that I notated for all of you fine humans, and to get to that point of no new lesions, no active demyelination, felt really, really good and feels really, really good. And I attribute this to a couple different things. I think Ocrevus is working really well for me. I still feel like Superwoman when I get my infusions, and I feel really, really fortunate that it's actually going well, because if you know me personally or have known me for a long time, you know how I feel about infusions. I hate them. But I think Ocrevus has been a little bit of a blessing, but also, sorry, Puddles is moving in her big cone, but also my intentions and shift in energy and how I'm approaching my life now, I think is also playing a really big part. Because after reading these results, I feel more confident than ever. I'm going to fix this. And even reading things like it's concerning to have this level of brain atrophy at my age and that I'm a higher risk for Alzheimer's disease. I'm not scared. I'm not afraid anymore. I was for a long time. Especially in 2024, when literally it was like the second week of January, I saw my old neurologist who I fired, and he told me that at the rate I was progressing, I would die in 10 years. That's a story for a different video. That was actually my original video intention for this week, but I just got my results, so I wanted to share it with all of you because it's so exciting. But even when everything sucks, like it did in 2024, everything sucked health-wise for me specifically. Like it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just kept taking it and taking it. And then I made an active decision in 2025. I decided that I was done with how this was going. I didn't even change anything. I was like, okay, it's time to take action and do something about this, even though I didn't do anything except retry a medication that didn't work for me and it wasn't FDA approved and was a mistake. Never take Mavenclad more than the prescribed dose. It was a terrible error. But I'm excited to be here and I'm proud. And I would love to see these images. It's just one of those things where, like, they don't give me my physical images. I don't think, anyway. Hold on. I see an attachment here. Let's see. Let's figure this out together. Do they give me images? Because they certainly did not back in the day. And they would give me like a CD, which is completely useless to me now. Nothing has any disk drives anymore. No, unfortunately not. It's the paper I signed. That's useless to me now. But personally speaking, I would love to see the images just because one of the few that I have are the first ones I ever got in Canton Hospital the week I got diagnosed. Not even at the place that gave me my final diagnosis. I don't have those. Those were in Fletcher Allen, Vermont, and I don't have them. But I do have my first scans, and boy, howdy, are they wild to look at. Maybe that'll be the thumbnail for this, just as a reminiscence, because I feel more confident than ever that it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And I feel that way about you too. Even if you just got gut punched with less than ideal news or just got diagnosed with something or are scared out of your mind, you're going to be okay too. I promise. Because what having a chronic illness has given me is resilience. Shameless plug here for a recent blog on chronicallyjoyful.blog that I talked about this quite ad nauseum extensively. But it builds resilience and it builds patience. A lot of things build patience, actually, because I was never a patient person. It's not in my genetic makeup. You should meet my family. But in at least the last, I'll say 2 years, I've learned a lot of patience through adversity in this illness, through meeting people whose brains function so different from mine that I'm like, something would happen and it would hurt me. I just look at them and be like, why would you say that? And they would look back at me and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was even remotely offensive. Why would you take it that way? And I'm like, I don't know. So it's just, there's a lot of different arenas to learn patience and understanding and compassion. And this, I guess, is the one that my soul chose, was having MS. However I got it. I still blame the water on Long Island. My neighbor across the street developed MS many, many moons later down the line from me. And what are the odds of that, guys? What are the odds? It's Long Island water, I swear to God. But all of that to say that I am really excited about these MRI results and I'm really optimistic for the future. And I'm hoping that the next round that I get this, it's going to come back and be like, actually, there's less than what was here before. Because I think I've mentioned this multiple times before, but when I got diagnosed all the way back in 2014, I always have to question. I'm like, was it that year? 2014. I had 30 lesions in my brain. And it was the Dawson's fingers that actually, and the high amount of lesions that I had that actually saved me. I look at it as a good thing, as I always do, just for the fact that so many people I know have such horrific diagnosis journeys. They take so long to figure it out because based on the things that I've read here, there's like a huge slew of other illnesses that have very similar characteristics in an MRI scan. The Dawson's fingers, that's MS specific. But other things that I said here, like brain atrophy, swelling in the brain, junction to the right. For me, it indicated demyelination and an autoimmune disease, but it can indicate other things. And like demyelination and autoimmune, that could also be Lyme. I know so many people who got misdiagnosed with MS, but actually had something completely different. In some cases, way more horrifically malpracticed than others. I'll say that. So the amount of lesions in my head, my Dawson's Creek fingers, and other indicators like that, I'm grateful for, because I did not have to have a spinal tap. I know many of you have. I wish you all of my love. I'm mentally hugging you. That's awful. And I was diagnosed within a week. And I only had I had one CAT scan and 2 MRIs. And the second MRI, it was also of my spine, which I am very grateful to also say I do not have lesions on my cervical spine. They're all just hanging out in my head like Swiss cheese, but that's fine. And the fact that I don't have enhancing lesions at the moment or dark matter. I have friends that also their MRI scans come back where it shows dark matter, which is very, very scary to see because that has much graver implications than Dawson's fingers and white matter and those types of things that you expect to see in an MRI. There's so many different characteristics of MS, especially because there's so many different types of MS. And I'm of the personal opinion where I'm sure they probably haven't even discovered all of them yet. We're all like snowflakes. We all have different problems. But all of that to say, no matter what results you get and when, because I'm pretty confident I've always received my results before my care team. So I get the privilege of reading those before anyone calls me. So like the bad news I read and I interpreted after many years of doing this. And then they called me and were like, hey, sorry, gotta switch your meds again. Gotta bring you back in for another MRI. How you feeling? Because based on these scans, you should be crawling. And I'm like, I ran a 5K this morning. I feel fine. So with my particular journey, all of my unfortunate news has come through MRI scans. So I am very grateful in this moment in time. And I'm very excited for what comes next and how much more progress I can make energetically here, because I'm going to fix it. I'm pulling a Naruto. I will be Hokage. I will help people fix this shit. In my last dying breath, I am optimistic I'll be able to do it at least a little bit. Not saying I'm going to cure it. That's crazy. That's great. That's just crazy talk. But improving it? I'm not a scientist by any means. I don't know how this actually works up there. That is not my forte. I'm a linguist. I like big words and language and art and reading. I am not doing brain surgery. I say it every day at work. I work in digital messaging. No one's going to die. But they will if I try to do brain surgery. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not saying that I'm going to miraculously cure this horrific chronic illness that so many people are affected by. Until I do. And when that happens, I'll see you at my TED Talk. If you know me personally, you know that I daydream about this all the time. It's gonna happen. All right. All of that to say, thank you so much for being here and listening to me ramble on and pronounce words that definitely did not pronounce correctly. I appreciate all of you and your time, and I'm going to transition over to Puddles Cam to show you how pathetic my poor baby girl currently looks right now. And she is accepting #thoughts and prayers right now as she recovers from her surgery in her cone for the next 10 days. So the light in me sees the light in you. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. Have the best of Thursdays. engaging Puddle's cam. It is so sad. She did figure out how to lay down in the cone, which is the most important part. But look at her. Look at her. And if they didn't find what they found, I wouldn't have my little partner in crime, who's 84 pounds and not little at all, at 1 year and 4 months. So I am very grateful to the surgical team today for making sure this baby girl gets all the rest she needs and is the healthiest puppy she can be. So Puddle says, thank you. Love you guys. I'm going to make it.